Welcome to Realty Real Talk, the intro. I'm Ashley Warney, realtor with Coldwell Banker NHS Real Estate on the residential side, commercial side, NHS Commercial. And I have, who wants to go first?
Deanne's got it.
I got it. I'm Deanne Roundy, and I am also with Coldwell Banker NHS Real Estate and NHS Commercial, and I'm based out of Omaha. And we have...
I'm Tyler Lunger. I'm also with Coldwell Banker NHS Real Estate and NHS Commercial. We also do have an auction site that I help run too. I'm kind of more Lincoln, York area, kind of surrounding areas. I know Ashley and I kind of help run the Lincoln office, help run the York office. So, yeah.
I think inquiring minds want to know, Tyler, is what record do you hold in the state of Nebraska?
Pole vaulting. For pole vaulting.
Yeah, I was formerly a pole vaulter. Well, I kind of still pole vault. I also help coach at the University of Nebraska here at Lincoln, coach the pole vault. So kind of a lot of fun, something I can do. Real estate allows me to do that on the side. So
yeah, and my son is a junior in high school, and he's decided to do pole vaulting for his first time this year. So I asked Tyler for advice, and he said, yes, just do it.
Absolutely. It's one of the most fun things you could ever do besides real estate.
You go. I don't know. Flying up there high in I don't know about that. That's a little terrifying to me.
Well, I could never do. I'm afraid of heights because also I'm short. So I think it'd be too scary.
I did. Okay, this is going to be embarrassing. This is totally off subject of real estate talk, but what's the one where you, the bar is horizontal and you jump over that?
High jump.
Yeah, I did that in junior high and totally biffed it on the bar with a scrape up my back. So I can't imagine trying pole vaulting, but anyway, that's Tyler's.
I just played soccer and softball. I feel like those might have been a little bit safer than maybe track.
I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, I suppose we should talk a little more on the real estate side here. This is our intro podcast to our podcast, Realty Real Talk, where we will be interviewing our agents throughout the brokerage and getting to know them a little more and their skills, talents, and all of the above. So
yeah, I think we discussed the podcast and why we should do it, and I think we have a lot of really amazing agents who have so much different experiences, different backgrounds, and I think they can provide so much value to people listening. Just by either telling stories or talking about giving some information about the real estate market and, the value of working with a real estate agent. There's a lot that I think is going to be really exciting to hear about from a lot of our agents.
Yeah,
so,
they're going to be all across the board. We've got some really great stories. There's never a dull moment in real estate, as we always say. Everything also depends. So, it depends on what the day is going to bring, what the topic is. Whether agents share stories or whether they talk about, processes about real estate and whatnot. So
it's nice too, because I feel like, you see agents on billboards, you see their picture on social media, but adding the video in really you get to know the agents on a different light. And it's not just, oh yeah, I see you on this billboard as a drive-by. So we wanted to open this up to get to know our agents a little bit more personal on a personal level, and then just be able to kind of get to know their background more in real estate and go from there. So.
Yeah, I think too what's really cool is that because our company does residential real estate, we do commercial real estate. Like Tyler said, we have the auction site, which is awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
You're auctioning like all kinds of stuff, farm equipment and cars and all kinds of stuff. Yep. So that I feel like will be a whole story or maybe episode in itself. But we also have property management. So I don't know how much we want to tell stories about some of that. We actually have some really good stories. We'll have to leave all names out, but so we have the property management side. But there's so much that we do here that I feel like should be shared. Holding all this, either the information or the stories back, I feel like does the public disservice, right? Really, we're trying to service people by, telling them, hey, look, we've got information, we have all these great stories. I think people are going to enjoy it.
Yeah. It'll be good to kind of highlight different areas, and you just see little bits here and there and don't really know in depth. Like on the auction, I know a lot of people are like, what do you auction? And Tyler, you want to go down with
everything? We've got a building coming up here for auction in about a week. It's been an interesting one. It's a Mexican restaurant down in the York area. It's been a fun one to get going. We recently had some farm equipment auctioned off. A whole entire farm. A couple had retired and just kind of wanted done with things. So that's been an interesting process, and it's been a lot of fun. it's kind of new for us. We recently just started this one here about 3-4 months ago, and still a little bit in the learning phases, but we're getting it figured out really quickly. So just another way we can provide services for our clients. So.
Yep.
So I think what would be fun, and I did not prepare these two for this question, so they're about to kill me. I think we should each share like one of our most favorite or best real estate stories.
Oh boy.
You know, so I think I will go first because I obviously am putting you guys on the spot. So you guys can think about something while I'm sharing the story. So I'm going to go way back. I don't know. This must have been like 4 years ago. And I had a house. The seller, so it was somewhat of a crazy family situation. The seller lived out of state, had never actually been and saw the house. And then they asked me to go as basically to be the listing agent on it. And there was apparently another family member who had been living in the house. When I showed up, the family member had moved out, but all of the stuff was still there. And let me just tell you, I walk into this house. I have now nicknamed this house the poop house. Just so, yeah, so I walk in, and before I even open the front door, I can smell the house.
Oh, no.
So I'm smelling the house. I open the front door, and the house looks like it smells as soon as you walk in the front door. And it's just kind of a small, kind of like ranch style. It has a basement. Well, every room, of course, I mean, there was like, you know, beer bottles and cigarettes. And apparently this guy who had lived there had a dog that he never let outside. So if you guys can just imagine the smell and the looks of this place, it was pretty much a disaster. So anyways, I went, well, anyway, I actually had called I think it was my dad at the time, because sometimes when you, as an agent, this is a female too, sometimes you want a little backup. So I called my dad, he actually came with me, and I was about to go downstairs, but of course the lights were off and it looked really scary. So of course, what would any other person do? I sent my dad downstairs, right? I was like, Dad, you're going to be the one to go downstairs and check out this house. And he's such a good dad. So he did. And of course, the downstairs looked a lot like the upstairs. So of course I had to make the uncomfortable phone call to the seller, who didn't realize how severe the situation was. And basically just said, hey, look, we've got to clean out this entire house before we get it listed, right? So anyway, so the seller was great. We got it all cleaned out. I got the house listed, and lo and behold, I actually sold it. I think first day on market.
Nice.
Multiple offers, right? So, but it's one of those situations where I will never forget that situation. Walking in there. But I also, when I meet people now, I'm like, any house can sell, right? I'm like, don't you worry.
There is a house.
And I can sell any house, right? So yeah. So I mean, after that was a great, I kind of maybe a confidence boost for me, that I was able to do it. Because, when you're in the process, I think sometimes as a real estate agent, sometimes you have those doubts creep and you're like, I don't know, this one's a tough one. Are we going to be able to get it? But, you just market it the right way. Of course, that one we marketed to investors. But so anyway, that was one of my, I have some other stories, but that one will always stay in my memory. So I'm curious what you guys have for some of your favorite real estate stories.
It's funny because I was like, do I want to go down a happy story route?
I'm doing the same thing. Do I want like a sappy story or like a really interesting one?
Well, I have two short ones about like meat. You're talking about like smells. And I had one where I was selling a house. A church had a house that they had rented out, and the people had just like left all their stuff. And so we went downstairs, and why when you see like a freezer sitting there, do you feel like you need to open it? Like, I don't know.
No.
But me and my client were like, let's, see what's in that freezer. And it was almost like, are we going to find something scary? Well, they had unplugged the freezer and left. And there was like tons of meat in that freezer.
Oh.
And for like weeks, right? Okay, so that was one meat story. And then
You have one? Oh, I have
multiple?
multiple meat stories.
I have two. The next one, so some clients, this was a rental for them. And they had bought a really nice, they put really nice stainless steel appliances in. And then another situation, but they had unplugged it to put it out in the garage. To like redo the floor, or they put in new flooring. Well, the seller's buddy who helped him, yelled out there and said, hey, can you check and make sure there's nothing in the fridge and freezer? his friend was like, yeah, sure, I got it, whatever. And I don't think he heard the freezer part. He just looked in the fridge. Well, there was, again, meat in there. And so when I came to tour the house for prepping it to sell, we opened it and he's like, yeah, my buddy was supposed to look in there and make sure there's no meat. And he had opened it and they had cleaned it like 3 times, but like the meat had, the juices had gone down the fridge. And so they were like, do you think we could sell? I'm like, no, you guys, you cannot sell that fridge.
I feel like the next award ceremony for Ashley, we've got to bring some meat into this. Like, something meat related.
Yeah. On a good story, whenever you sell like real estate for your family, you kind of have a little bit of like, there's a little more pressure. Like, this is your family, I want it to go well. Sister-in-law and brother-in-law's house, a nice split level home. They're going into a bigger home. And like the day of photos, it just started to rain. And of course you're like, well, it's not going to have that bright, sunny, like picture, whatever, everything's, gloomy. And so I said to her photographer, I'm like, is there a way, like, he's great. He does an awesome job. I'm like, is there a way we can just make it look a little more light on these photos, because I was so worried about the rain. The photo he had for the front turned out awesome. It had like rain on the side, on the driveway and sidewalk, and he was able to, maybe enhance the sky a little bit. And it was funny because I was so nervous for this transaction, and I'm like, okay, I want to get people in the door. I told my brother and sister-in-law, like, it was September of 2021, so still a pretty hot market. I'm like, I don't know, exactly how it's going to go. You guys just maybe want to be out of the house. We had 40 showings in 2 days, and we had 20 offers. And I was like, every time how many offers you got? Well, we have 8. Okay, we'll be sending one in. And like that transaction couldn't have gone any better. But the pressure of like working with a family, you're like, ah. So anyway, there's my really great story, and then my meat stories. Those are memorable stories of real estate so far.
Yeah, there's a ton of stories that you could tell. Probably the most memorable one was pretty early on in my career, is actually buying an investment property for myself. We had put it under contract. We were going through the inspections, and we couldn't find an attic access. That's one thing I always try and check is, does it have insulation? Has everything that way? Does it have insulation? Kind of that stuff. Couldn't find an attic access. And so the inspector came in and he said, well, we can probably sneak a camera up through this little hole and see what's up there. So we're like, okay, we'll try that. So he puts a light up there, puts the camera up there, takes a picture, and it's pretty crystal clear. You can see somebody had taken a tree branch from the backyard, probably, stuck it up in the roof, and that's what was holding the roof up.
You're
so there's just a normal tree branch holding the roof up in the middle of the
Wow.
I thought you were gonna say there was like raccoons or something living up there.
Yeah, there was a few more things.
No.
There was a few more things wrong with that house. Did
you buy it?
I did not end up buying it.
Did not buy it.
The funniest thing was we had told the listing agent at the time, we said, we're still interested in the house, but you got to fix these things. So at the time we had backed out of the contract, got our earnest money back, whatnot. One of the bigger problem was that all the floor joists had termites, to the point where the inspector took a screwdriver, like a 16-inch screwdriver, and shoved it through the floor joist.
Oh my.
Wow.
And so they came back 2 days later, 2 days, all the floor joists, and said, hey, we replaced all the floor joists. Do you want to buy it? And we said, there is no way you did all of that work in 2 days.
And that's why you get a home inspection.
And that's why you get a home inspection. So that saved us big time there. Another one, hoarder story. I mean, we see these not all the time, but fairly frequently. There was a property, investment property again. Went and looked at it with my buyers, and you could get the front door open, and that was it.
Ooh.
You couldn't even walk through the property without stepping on stuff. And it wasn't just the house. It was literally the entire property.
So it was listed for sale like that?
Yeah, listed for sale. And actually, the listing agent did a really good job marketing it. He played a hide-and-seek game. He hit a key somewhere and then did a 3D tour of it. Because, he knew it was full of stuff. So he played a game. And it was pretty cool. But yeah, it was.
I did walk into a hoarder house once on a showing, and the agent note said there's a few items left in the house. That was the agent note, so I was not prepared. I was not, I showed up to the house and I go to open the door and I'm like, this is more than a few. This is more than a few items. There was just the pathway, to try to get places. So, but of course, from an investor's, standpoint, sometimes, finding some of those houses is a good find.
Right. Could be a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully you guys enjoy the content we have coming up and all the interviews with our agents. You will be able to find these on YouTube, podcasts. You can find the audio on Spotify and Instagram. We'll be putting out some reels and previews and go from there. So
We're excited to be doing it.
We're
Looking
excited
forward.
to be going along and
Yeah, this podcast is sponsored by Coldwell Banker, NHS Real Estate, and NHS Commercial.
yes.